Hi guys, Nutnfancy here, doing a glove review for you. I've had a lot of requests for glove reviews. I don't know if I'm the end-all expert for gloves. I do have some preferences. I'm going to share those with you. I'm going to share with you things that I think make a good glove and things that might make a bad glove. And I'm also going to tell you about prices, what I think comprises a good or fair price for a set of law enforcement officer type gloves and what's a ripoff. I'm going to share all that with you. Thanks to my host, Skaggs Police Supply, very gracious of them to provide me all these gloves, well not these ones, but most of them for review purposes. I think you'll find it interesting if you are in the market for gloves. Now, if you're not a police officer, a federal officer, I don't know, a military member, civilian sheepdog type that's looking for a good set of tactical gloves, then you might not find this review interesting. However, if you are, I'm going to share some philosophy with you and go over a lot of different models with you in this review, and I think it'll give you some information that you can use as you go around shopping. Now, keep in mind, and I know you're just staring at my hands now, trust me, I'm going to get going here in a sec. Keep in mind, though, a little philosophy on the video. These are models that will probably be short-lived. In other words, they'll come and go as time moves on. I'm going to tell you the brand and the model as best I can, but if you don't find them, look for the features that I'm telling you about. Now, if you buy within the next year or so, you'll probably be able to find those models. If not, you might be out of luck. Okay, let's get going. What you're looking at here are my stupid hands, like I always show you. I always feel like a hand model here on YouTube. But these, you guys might think that Nutnfancy is like a gear snob, and I'm like really into this hot tactical gear that's expensive. Actually, I'm not. These are nothing more than batting gloves bought at Walmart. See, Easton. These are batting gloves, and yes, I use them for a variety of things, and my two kinds of cool video, you saw me using them as driving gloves, and they function quite well. The reason I'm starting my review with these is because we're going to use these gloves as a standard of measure, and as I go along in my review, just for the heck of it, we're going to compare them against my Easton batting gloves. Let me tell you what I like about these gloves. First off, the price. I got the gloves for around $18, which for a set of tight-fitting black, which is somewhat tactical and subdued, pair of gloves is a fair price in my opinion. They're also form-fitting. They fit my hand quite well, and that's very critical for any type of tactical glove you want. You don't want a bunch of excess material in the fingertips, which ruins dexterity. Also, they're durable. You can see that I have a fair amount of use on these, as evidenced by the shinier palms. And these palms, incidentally, are made of real leather. They're not synthetic leather. And I want to talk about what each gives you as the review progresses. Now you see, as I've gotten some use out of these, a payoff, or maybe I should say a trade-off for getting very tight-fitting gloves is that finger will pop out at the end, and that's kind of, in my experience, what's going to happen on any glove that you have sized adequately. They really need to do a better job at really reinforcing those fingertips without putting excess material on there. But you want that. Again, you don't want excess material there. Also, it's fabric backed. I like fabric backed gloves because they breathe better. As I go through the day and I generate some sweat on my hands, I want to be able to have that evaporate out the back. Not so worried about the front of the glove, but the back, definitely. How about the wrist closure? Decent. It is kind of wearing out. You remember how I've told you in some other reviews, like when I reviewed that RC4, and it's a rat cutlery RC4 knife, and they use a Velcro closure on their sheath, and I criticize it? Well, that's a valid criticism. Here you can see this Velcro is worn out. As this glove has been used a lot, you can see that the hook side gets totally furred up, and actually I need to cut it off and replace it, and that's relatively easy to do, but Velcro will wear out with use. Most gloves will have that Velcro closure, some will have a neoprene. I like this one. It's straightforward and it works. So they breathe good, they're durable, they fit the hand well, they're relatively lightweight, and they're inexpensive. There's our Easton tactical glove, and it's not even a tactical glove, for heaven's sakes, it is a baseball glove. And that's going to be our standard measure. Okay, so I might refer to that as we go. Man, we got a lot to cover. I don't know if this will be a single part or multi-part. We'll see as the review progresses. First ones I'm going to show you are these brand, and I'm not, again, super familiar with all the many brands of gloves out there. There's so many. And most of them are kind of fly-by-night gloves. I shouldn't say most of them. Some of them are. In other words, brands you've never heard of. I'm not super familiar with this brand. It is Damascus Protective Gear. There's their website should you want to go search their gloves. But here's the price, $19.95. That's a reasonable price. By the way, I think Skaggs is in the ballpark with their prices. They're not outlandish. They're reasonably priced. For me, I want to spend around 20 bucks for a set of tactical gloves. If I go above $20, I'm getting ripped off. Let me give a caveat. I don't think I'm getting ripped off, but I can find a good pair of gloves, just like I showed you with those Easton baseball gloves, that will serve their purpose, maybe even if it's not a specialty glove, for around $20. So that's my price reference. If it's around 20 bucks, thumbs up. If it's more than that, it better give me some performance. All right, so this is a pretty good glove. This one's called the Next Star 2. Again, the brands will change. It's a mechanic style glove, medium weight, diverse style, and this is what you want to look at. Clarino synthetic palm. I prefer synthetic leather over real suede or genuine leather. And the reason why is if you get real wet leather or synthetic leather wet, guess what? It is going to stay wet. It does not dry out. Also, it will wear a little bit faster than a synthetic leather. And there's different name brands. Clarino is one of them, and this is all synthetic leather according to their product information here. So when I put this glove on for the Next Star 2 by Damascus Protective Gear, I'm pretty impressed with the fit. I'll start in the back. I love this back panel, and you see that fabric there? That's actually pretty strong fabric. I've had other gloves made of it, and mechanic variety gloves, and it wears pretty darn good. It won't snag or rough up too much. In fact, the genuine Mechanics brand gloves uses this type of fabric in the back, and it's proven pretty durable with me. If you don't think so, go look at some of my outdoor survival videos where I'm wearing those mechanic style gloves, and you can see that they wear pretty darn good. Let's go to the hand. That's all synthetic. You need to ask yourself, do I need a full leather palm? The benefit of that is you're going to have more protection in search and seizure if you're a law enforcement officer. The downside is you're going to lose just a little bit dexterity when they do multiple layers of suede, or in this case, synthetic leather. So I think these gloves fit very nicely. I like them. However, there's a little bit extra fabric in the fingertips, and I feel like there's a little bit loss of dexterity with these palm pads. Do we need these palm pads? I'm going to say no, we don't. I guess the idea behind them is recoil reduction for handgun usage. I don't think it's necessary. I'm not going to be shooting a 454 Castle as my law enforcement pistol, so I don't need these pads. This is marketing here. They're trying to make it look cool and attract you. I don't think it detracts from the design, making it a horrible glove. I'm just saying that it's not necessary. Again, going back to the Easton, that doesn't, well, it has very light padding right here, and that's okay as long as it doesn't create big old bumps like this one does. So maybe not necessary. Good ventilation. Fingertips, again, too much fabric. How's the wrist closure? Good. I have no issues with it. It's fine. It's just simple Velcro, like most of them are. It's going to close on the wrist, and you have a stretchable wristband here, and I like those too. I'm going to show you the cuff style, which I do not prefer. So I will say overall, these Next Star 2 by Damascus Protective Gear for 20 bucks is a good buy. You got to ask yourself, though, if you'd be happy with that excess material. I kind of define that by, can I load a pistol magazine with these gloves? Do I have enough dexterity to load a pistol magazine? Chances are I do not with these particular Next Star 2s, in my opinion. But it might be a good glove if you anticipate not just tactical use, but maybe some work usage as well, since it is a pretty durable palm and fully covered in that. See, that's a Next Star 2, $20, and that's what they're being sold for at Skaggs Police Supply where I'm at. And you can call them up and order from them on any of these gloves, by the way. And no, I'm not advertising for Skaggs. Skaggs is a gracious host, and I think their prices are reasonable, so I do not mind promoting them in the Nutnfancy project. Look for the information on the right-hand side of the screen. I have a lot of good guys that support the Nutnfancy project, and I'm grateful for all of them. And if I think they give good product at a good price, then yeah, they'll get some coverage. Free of charge. These are called, this is Hatch. Now Hatch is a police equipment supplier. They make all kinds of different items for police uniforms, and they make some gloves. These are called the Street Guard gloves. They are labeled with a sheriff emblem. You can get them, of course, without the emblem. This is size extra large. Let me talk to sizing real quick. You should have a really good idea of what hand size you have. Do you wear a large and extra large in gloves that you've bought in the past? If you don't, you need to go get a glove measuring tool, kind of like in the Cabela's catalog. They used to have one, and you can find out what your hand size is. That being said, you will have a small variance between different styles and models and makes of gloves. In other words, I'm generally a large hand size, but in this particular glove, I have found that the extra large glove fits me better. Okay, and that's with the Street Guard by Hatch. What's the price on these? $25. There's your information if you want to pause the screen. Now, the Street Guard are designed to be search and seizure gloves. They're supposed to be puncture proof. And the way we find that out is reading the back. 9-ounce Kevlar interlock liner, blah, blah, blah. Digitized synthetic leather palms. I like that. Okay, all you really need to get out of that is if it has Kevlar in it, what they're trying to do is prevent your hand getting cut as you go into the perp's pocket. He might have a blade, a hypodermic needle, although I don't think these gloves would actually protect you against a hypodermic needle, at least not from the backside where it's fabric. But that's good. I have no problems with that. But the trade-off on going with a search and seizure glove that is cut and puncture resistant, at least on the front side of it, is you're going to lose dexterity. And that is apparent when you wear these Hatch Street Guard gloves. That you have those extra layers of protection, but you lose a little bit dexterity. Could I load a pistol mag with these? No. Again, you kind of... Now, I guess see how I got a little flop in fabric? This is definitely what you do not want to have in your glove. You want them to fit tight. And so maybe I could go to a large size and maybe those would fit better. But this is very bad. Anytime you have this fabric flopping around, you don't have a glove that fits you properly. So maybe the large does fit me better. I'd have to get it and try it. The wrist closure is fine, standard Velcro. Then we have neoprene on the back. Now, once upon a time, I thought neoprene sucked for glove material. But as long as it's on the back only of the glove, I think it's adequate. And it works pretty darn good. And it's comfortable. If you're in a cooler to colder climate, you'll like it. If you're in a hot Floridian type climate where it's hot and humid, you're probably going to hate it because it traps moisture in, i.e. a wetsuit. That's what neoprene does. It's not permeable. But we do breathe out the side of the fingers here, which is fabric. And then, of course, our ring finger and pinky finger are full fabric. So not bad. I like the back design, form-fitting. Then we got a terry cloth nose wiping system here. And my opinion on those, totally not needed. How often are you going to blow your nose on your glove? Not very often. I mean, if you're skiing or snowboarding, then yeah, maybe that would be helpful, but I don't know. Maybe that's to wipe sweat too when you're chasing a perp down over the fences. So I find that this terry cloth portion here will pull. As you walk through like woods and stuff, it's going to pull and string out threading from it. So I prefer not to have it. So not a lot of dexterity. You do have a little bit of protection from the cutting and puncturing with that Kevlar interlock liner, as they call it. Enough said on that one. Street Guard by Hatch, $25. $25 for a search and seizure glove with Kevlar, it actually is pretty reasonable. Next, this one is the MX 5000 Halo. Again, we go back to the brand Damascus protective gear. Okay, and let's read the stuff about this. I won't go over it all. Blah, blah, blah. Clarino, that's all I care about. Silicone coated. So I put this on. Now we're going to get into some philosophy about insulated gloves, because this is an insulated glove. Now its brand is called Ultramax Liners, and so what this is a cop glove, for lack of a better term. It's a cop glove that's insulated. That might be good for officers serving in, I don't know, Minnesota, North Dakota. But again, we don't get everything for nothing. In other words, if we want an insulated glove, what are we going to give up? We're going to give up fit for one, generally speaking. You can see this doesn't exactly fit tight. It's a little bit sloppy on the hand. You're going to lose some dexterity as well. Okay, so you don't get something for nothing. You want insulation? Great. You'll get your insulation, but you're going to lose that dexterity. Let's look at the fingertips, and this is the all-important area of fit that we need to look for. Do you see that cloth, that fabric folding over? You might have a hard time getting rid of that in an insulated glove just by virtue of its design. Because you went with an insulated glove, you can pull that as tight as you want, and you're still not going to have really tight fingertips. That's what I'm finding out with these Halo gloves by Duramax. I don't like insulated gloves when I go tactical. I just don't. If I want insulated gloves, guess what? I'll shed these tactical gloves and I'll put on some fleece gloves and I'll just switch back and forth. But when I'm shooting, engaged in combat operations or anything tactical along those lines, I don't want insulation. It ruins my dexterity, it ruins my speed, my weapon feel, my ability to access a blade, an edged weapon, and feel it, and that's not good. Speaking of which, if you decide, if you're a cop, you're a law enforcement officer, or a soldier, and you're wearing gloves, you better practice your weapon handling, both pistol, rifle, and edged weapons with your gloves on, because it totally changes the game. What used to be an expert without your weapon, as soon as you put your gloves on, you kind of feel like a goober, because you kind of lose that dexterity and the capabilities that you've practiced with. Okay, the back on this is fine. I love that fabric. There's that really tough nip fabric that they use on mechanics gloves. Full fabric backing, I like that, so that's going to breathe well. A little bit of neoprene here. Kind of a miss on the closure. Why is that? Because they should have continued that loop all the way over here, so when I close that wristband, it closes and doesn't flop around like that. Can you sew some on there? Yeah, you can do that. I mean, I would if I owned these gloves. That way it's a nice tight closure, but it should come that way. I wouldn't buy these gloves just because they're too bulky for me. And I shouldn't say I wouldn't. It depends. If I'm serving a really cold climate, they would serve as good all-around driving gloves, maybe winter gloves. But don't take them out of category and call them tactical gloves, because for me a tactical glove has to be something that provides a dexterity. That's the Halo MX5000 by Damascus Gear, and that listed, oh by the way, $45. So that's kind of expensive in my book. Now I'm getting up into the realm of ripoff. Sorry, that's just how I look at it. Next one, X3 V-Force. Again, Damascus Gear in XL size. You can kind of see the package there. This is another cop glove. Let's put it on and see what we think. Well, I can look right here that it's also a puncture resistant. So what's that going to tell me? Puncture cut resistant gloves with super fabric, blah, blah, blah. Kevlar. Anytime you see Kevlar, it's going to be puncture resistant. At least that's what they're striving for. When I put this on, I feel like I'm wearing a gardening glove. Seriously, it does not feel good in hand. Remember, if we want to get a puncture resistant glove, that's great. We can do that, but it's going to come with a price, and that price is going to be loss of dexterity. I know I sound like a broken record, but I want you guys to understand that. Okay, it does not feel good on hand. It's very stiff, and you can see I got extra fabric in the tips. Now, granted, I'm an XL size. Maybe a large size would be better in this particular model. That would take some trying on. By the way, if you guys order these, you might, if you're between sizes like I am, kind of large, extra large, maybe you want to order 2 pair. Maybe you want to go large XL, take really good care of them, and then send back the pair that doesn't fit. I'm sure Skaggs would do that. Most quality retailers will allow you to do that. I mean, you're not in store, you're not trying them on like I am, so you don't have that luxury, and you want your tactical glove to fit you. I'm not even going to go further with this glove because it just does, I just don't like it. It's a gardening glove. It's just too stiff on here. I got too much fabric in the tips. It sucks. And then we got the terry cloth thumb. I don't like that. Closure's fine. Enough said. And let's look at the price. We're at $43. So I'm paying $43 for, yeah, maybe a little bit of cut protection, but a lot less dexterity, and they just don't feel tactical to me. So that was the X3 squared V-Force. Man, that's a long name. Keep your names simple, manufacturers. It's too much for everyone to remember. But that's by Damascus Gear. Then we come to the quintessential flight gun. By the way, this is going to be a 20-minute video, and I'm going to have to do a part 2. I don't know how long part 2 will be. Probably less. I have a lot of experience with all kinds of Nomex gloves, and this is a standard example of a Nomex flight glove in large size. And for you guys that don't know what I'm talking about, this is a Nomex. Actually, I don't know if this one is Nomex. Yeah, it is. Nomex flight glove that's been modeled to U.S. military specifications. Now, you guys will say, oh, U.S. military specifications, that means it must be freaking rocking. It must be an awesome glove. Not necessarily. Tune into part 2 and I'll tell you why. This is Nutnfancy with doing some glove reviews at an awesome cop shop, Skaggs. Here comes part 2. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for the support. I need it.